Every once in a while, I'll get like a comment or one of you guys, or you'll direct message me and you'll like ask me, it's like, hey, I'm liking the podcast. Do you plan to take shots on the media like every single day? Here's your answer. Yes. Yes, I do. Because I think they caused all this. And let me ask you this. Here's proof positive. We were just talking about propaganda yesterday on the live stream. How many times, if you happen to pay attention to regular mainstream corporate, traditional media, how many times did you hear the word ambush yesterday? This is the exact reason why they're not going to learn. It's not going to get better. A golden opportunity. There is a wide open business model for media outlets, for traditional news outlets to go mainstream and just report the facts. Golden opportunity. People are starving for it. And they just won't do it. They're just going to lie their way and propaganda their way into obscurity and complete failure, because their reaction to the Trump incident, the ambush is the word they're using now, of the South African president at the White House yesterday. It's incredible. They caused all this. This is why they're the target of my ire. This is why. Because they're lying to us. That's why. But it's okay. That's all right. We know better now. There's a lot of other media news sources. We'll get to the real deal on that whole thing. We will talk about that. Was quite an incident yesterday at the White House. We'll talk about that as Trump turned down the lights, a little audio-visual show for the South African president, but he turned up the light and exposed what's actually happening in that country. That, once again, the media is not talking about. Unfortunately, we have another international violent incident to talk about with the Israeli embassy last night in Washington, D.C. Absolutely horrific, but things changed. Everything changed with this Free Palestine chant last night. Now it's directly tied to murder. We'll get into that, but it's not all going to be bad news and horrific stuff. We'll wrap it up today with something that's going on at Pace University, and will I guarantee you, be happening at a university near you. AI-generated voice commencement addresses. That's right. Not addresses, reading of the names. That's what it should be. I think I'm completely alone in the universe on this. I really do. Everybody seems to be just not only against it, like horrified by it. I can see I actually think it's kind of cool. Anyway, we'll get into that too. Thanks for finding me. I appreciate it so much. Big response to the live stream yesterday, and growing and growing. And I really appreciate that. The audio podcast too, which we post whenever we get off here live every single day. And don't forget, Wicked Radio is the live stream portion of Wicked Wisdom with Bill Adams, with some extended content on all the other social media platforms. Like, follow, blah, blah, blah. You know the deal. Let's get right to it. So, horrific. And I hate starting off the show like this, but you got to talk about what's going on in the news. What's the world telling us? More importantly, how can we process it and reframe this whole thing and get to the truth? Well, here's the incident. Shooting last night. Let me go to the exact story. It was in Washington, D.C. last night, a shooting incident, and it was horrific. It did end up in murders. Oh, it's awful to talk about. 2 Israeli embassy staff members, and that's important to the story, 2 Israeli embassy staff members were shot and killed by a suspect we'll get to here in a second. I hate to even mention his name. Outside the Capitol Jewish Museum in D.C. Occurred as the couple was leaving an event. Let's go to Washington, D.C. This was the overnight press conference of their public spokesperson talking about the details.
The suspect chanted, "Free, free Palestine," while in custody.
Really?
The suspect has been tentatively identified as 30-year-old Elias Rodriguez of Chicago, Illinois. Our MPD case detectives are leading this investigation.
Did she say Illinois? Anyway, she also said, chanted what? While in custody? The tentative... By the way, side note, that was a lot more information than what they usually give in press conferences like this with a suspect in custody, where they give out a name immediately. That was a little different. Did that catch your attention? That was a little bit different. She has to say tentatively identified. I get that. It's all alleged. It's all reported. I understand that for legal purposes, but usually we don't hear about a name until sometimes 2 days after it happens, and the internet sleuths find it out on their own. But now, hold on. What did she say? What was he chanting in custody? Now, that's the important part of the story. Well, let's go to that scene, because of course there were cell phone cameras there and reporters there. Here's the 30-year-old suspect as they arrest him.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
Isn't that interesting? So this is literally, they're handcuffing him. If you saw the video, you know what I mean. Handcuffing him. grabbing him, opening the door, putting him in, and then he's walking down the hall to, I don't know, whatever holding tank they put him in. He's still chanting that. Well, things just changed, my friends. Because I'm sorry if you fell for it. If when they originally told us we're going back, oh, geez, a year and a half ago now? Let's go back to the college campus riots, as I called them. What were we told at the very beginning with the Free Palestine chants and the blocking of roads and the incidents and the tearing down of Israeli hostage posters in New York, D.C., Chicago? I saw it in L.A. too. What were they telling us? They're just kids. They're just kids. All they want is peace. They just want the war to end. And most of us, common sense, free-thinking individuals said, well, yeah, I get that. You know, we just want, not picking a side here, we're Americans, but we want bloodshed to stop. We don't want to get involved. We want war to end, right? We all said that. And then it continued. They just want peace. They're just a peaceful group of people. They're just students. They just want free Palestine. Well, then it became kind of different last year when on those college campuses, it wasn't just free Palestine anymore. It was pro-Hamas. Then it became pro-terror. Well, that's interesting. That's a little bit different. And then still the media and still those organizations tried to tell us, no, they don't mean that. No. Those campus organizers, no, they just want peace and they want the killing of stuff. Well, now look where we are. Now, after all that, because they kept feeding this message and the media kept feeding it to us and they bought it hook, line, and sinker and they pushed it, what do we have now? Now forever, we've got that phrase and that chant, that Free Palestine, directly, forever now, tied to an international murder. That's where we are. We bought it. This is what they told us. This is why you can't buy that kind of propaganda when they say, when you see it with your own eyes, we all saw the news video, we all saw Jewish kids in Ivy League campuses and others blocked out of their college campus, out of their classes. We said, well, they're just trying to draw attention to their cause, to help out what's going on in Gaza. And if you bought that, I'm sorry, because you are willing to do that. You're willing to go a step further and to now tie it to murder. An international incident. That's tied forever, and I'm sorry. That chant that you heard there from that creeper right there, for that cretin, that's now directly tied to an international murderous event. Forever. That's what it is. Sad, horrifying story. And I hate talking about stuff like that, but it is. What matters to you and me is, what's this information that's been fed to us? Let's reframe this and send it back out. Yeah, we don't get fooled again. Sorry, it's not going to happen. So when you see things like something as extreme as taking over college campus buildings and government buildings, it happened too in smaller communities, and locking other students out of their classes that they pay for and threatening them and violence on campus and things like that, completely be aware that, ask yourself, I wonder what's the next step on this? What are they capable of if they're willing to do that and they're completely covered and protected by local organizations, those schools, the media, city officials? What are they capable of? Here's your answer. Murder. That's what happened. And now an international incident. The takeaway and the lesson is, just keep your eyes and ears open for that kind of stuff. You see that kind of violence percolating. It doesn't usually stop. And now here we are. Everything just changed with that incident last night. It's just terrible. You feel for those two. Anyway, here's what else changed last night. The whole world is looking at South Africa a lot differently now. And we've all heard the stories of genocide, African farmers. Was it last week? I think it was the week before last. We had all of the, about 50 or 60 of them, I think, South African refugees. And they were welcomed into the country and they were very patriotic. They're waving American flags. They were happy to be there. And of course, what were we told by the media? We were told that, Trump has no problem with white immigrants. Well, it's a little different because a lot of the people crossing the southern border weren't hunted in their homes. Yeah, that's a little bit different of a story. So, as it goes yesterday, and I know you saw this story because it was top trending in the worldwide press, not just in the States. Trump welcomed the South African delegation, the leadership there, into the White House. Apparently, they thought it was going to be a nice, huggy, friendly, warm and fuzzy kind of meeting, and it didn't turn out to be like that at all. I don't know why they didn't pay attention to the Zelensky meeting. Remember that? Where Trump just sat him down and, spanked him, for God's sake. I don't know why they didn't think that they were going to get the same treatment, but in the middle of it, Trump turns to the entire delegation, but specifically the South African president, and he says, What's going on? It's unacceptable. It's unbelievable. What's happening? We've all seen the reports. It's terrible. South African farmers, they're being killed. They're being hunted. It's terrible. And he turns and he goes, do me a favor. Turn down the lights and let's show a news report. Now, what was on this video? The South African president himself, video clips of him saying, we are going to take your land, even though he protested it in the office and he said, we're against that. Then he showed rallies, stadium rallies of not elected government officials, but big movements, stadiums saying, kill the farmers, kill the Boer. That's what happened. And Trump showed it directly in his face. And if you saw this, pay attention to the South African president and his reaction. He literally at one point put his head in his hands because he knew where I was going with this. So here's Trump turning the lights down, yet shining a light on those atrocities happening in that country.
Turn the lights down, and just put this on. It's right behind you.
Oh.
Johan.
There's nothing Parliament can do with or without you. People are going to occupy land. We require no permission from you, from the president, from no one.
Okay, so you imagine you're the South African president. You see this. You didn't expect an audio-visual show of the atrocities being shown that's happening in your country in the Oval Office meeting. You weren't prepared for it, apparently. That's part of the ambush, says the media. We'll get to that in a second. So you protest against it, and you come out and you say, we are completely against that. That's not our official policy. And he went so far as to say, and those people you showed in the video, they're not elected officials. Trump comes back with exactly what he wanted to say. He said, but you're not doing anything about it. Here was Trump's response. This is what really made the point.
And we are going to be doing
You're taking people's land away
we have not.
from them. And those people, in many cases, are being executed. They're being executed. And they happen to be white, and most of them happen to be farmers. Mm-hmm. And that's a tough situation. I don't know how you explain that. How do you explain that? They're taking people's land away, and in many cases, those people are being executed. And in many cases, it's not the government that's doing it. It's people that kill them and then take their land. And
I don't know if you're another world leader and you're faced with that, how you even come back. I mean, he should have just picked up and left. And he was leaving. They were putting him in the limo after the fact, and they were asking him, how'd you think that went? Oh, it went well. Right. Sure, it went great for you. Sure, because now the whole world is aware of this issue. That's what Trump does. This could have been, this has been percolating and getting worse for the past, I think 30 years is where it's really been bad. It goes further than that, obviously. This is the counter-reaction to apartheid, and, now it's different. And it's true. It's absolutely happening despite what the media says. Apparently because they're white farmers, this isn't allowed to be talked about in the world press, I guess. Is that the reasoning? I don't know. I know for a fact, I think I told you guys this story before. I had a neighbor. They just recently moved, but when he moved into our house next door, they're a South African family. I got to know him, and he was a great guy, and after a couple of conversations, he was talking to me about South Africa, and this is before I knew anything. This was about 10 years ago. And he was talking about his homeland here and how much he happened to love the States. I said, what? How come you guys moved here? Was it business, whatever it was? You know what his response was to me? He said to me directly, well, we didn't want to be murdered. That gets your attention, as I have a bag full of leaves. I'm like, what? Thinking it's going to be a casual conversation. Went on to tell me, and I had no reason to doubt the guy's story, exactly what was happening there. And that was years ago. And this has been building up. He told me directly. So when you hear something like that and a neighbor tell you about atrocities in a homeland, you tend to look it up and understand the issue. It's absolutely horrific. It's horrific. And this is something that any American president for the past 3 administrations could have done to address and done the exact same thing Trump did. By simply, ironically, by turning the lights down and showing a videotape, shining a light on exactly what those atrocities are. But what's the reaction now? Well, we were lied to about this for decades. Did you think that was going to stop yesterday? No, of course not. Of course they're not going to stop that. Because if you paid any attention to this coverage yesterday on the traditional, we call them the mainstream news outlets, what was the one word you heard over and over and read and over and over and over again? Ambush. Ambush. It was just yesterday, probably about this time during the live stream. Remember I was talking about this? You and I were talking about one of the telltale signs of picking up propaganda is when all of these media outlets coordinated with the politicians use the same word or phrasing, exact same word or phrasing. That's when you know it's propaganda, and they're trying to get ahead of an issue and control the narrative. Well, ambush was the word yesterday. Would you like some proof, would you? Okay. Well, here you go. Here's just, and this could go on for 2 minutes straight of television media, television news, mainstream corporate news telling you that this was an ambush yesterday. Well, was it really?
To the dramatic scene in the Oval Office today, the tense confrontation, President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
Next, another Oval Office meltdown, President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
President Trump is being accused of conducting something of a diplomatic ambush of South Africa's president in the Oval Office.
To be with you, I'm Katie Tur. President Trump orchestrated another Oval Office ambush.
I've got a minute and a half left to play of that, but I'm not going to bore you. These are all just clips all put together of the same word, the same propaganda being pushed by different media outlets, all the same ones. But now it's okay, though, right? When you start to hear this stuff and you become aware of it, it's scary at first, because then you start to realize, and you come out of that news bubble, you're like, oh my God, he's right. That actually happens. That they really actually do that. Well, of course they do that. And that's scary and it's depressing at first. But then there's this, you get this feeling of empowerment once you can see it. It's like you have a superpower. You can see through all the propaganda and how they work. And then you start to understand. But then you start to pick it up. Then you start to realize how often this actually happens. When you can read it, when you can see it, you can't unsee it. You get a sense for how they actually control a narrative that way. And it's all just crap. Like I said in the introduction, I think then there's my answer. If you ever thought that these news organizations were going to take advantage of this golden opening, this great opening to just do straight news or report the facts, which is all people want these days. Nope, they won't do it. They're too corrupt. They're not going to get better. They're just going to lie and propaganda their way into obscurity. And that's okay. And that's all right, because now so many of us are aware of it. So that's a good thing. Ambush. Unbelievable. All right. Been a lot of dark stories in the live stream today, but we don't control the news. We just process it and decide how we feel about it. But how do you feel about this one? Well, it's graduation season. Congratulations, all you grads. I see all the graduation signs in my neighborhood. This one's going to FSU. This one's going to Embry-Riddle. This one's going to Stanford. Apparently, we have a lot of smart kids in my neighborhood, which is great. Good for you. So, when you graduate out of college and you get to that point, a big deal is the graduation ceremony. I've done a couple of them in the crowd. I got to tell you, as a parent, let's be honest. Here's the truth. You go to a graduation ceremony, you're interested in one thing, hearing your kid's name. And if you, my daughter went to a massive university where it was thousands of names we listen to, but you only care about yours. And they drag on and they're long and they're, but still a proud moment and you got to go. Well, let's go to Pace University in upstate New York. They're doing something a little different. And I'm telling you, I think I may be the only one who actually think this is a good idea. I think I'm completely alone in the universe on this. But I don't know, maybe you're right and I'm wrong. First of all, here's an announcement, a recent post from Pace. This week, we celebrated more than 3,200 remarkable graduates in front of a crowd of nearly 20,000 at the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center. Check out the press release, and then they have all their video. And this is where the world find out about it, because Pace is doing something a little different this year. That's a lot of people to get through. That's a big crowd. And, well, Pace has decided to go with artificial intelligence name announcements. That's right. Here's how it works. So they pre-enter their information. All the kids have phones. They take their phones with them in the line, and they hold, like you're checking it, like you're going onto a plane, like with your boarding pass. And they go up to I think it's the dean directly, and he scans it with a little scan gun, like the little QR code, and the AI generated voice reads the kid's name. And it's fast and it's efficient, and it sounds like this.
Kelly Danko, Sophia Cicero, Emily Acosta.
Ooh, did you hear that scream?
Sabrina Ali.
Okay. Now the voice, first of all, here's a little side note. How good do they have the artificial intelligence voices now? That's all fake. That sounds like big voice stadium announcer guy. Wow. Boy, have they come a long way in that. But that's what they did. So it was fast. It was efficient. They got through their 3,200 kids with no problem. But oh, the reaction. Let me read some of these to you, to the reaction to this. One student said, "It's AI. We were directly told so. We gave it a website spelling it. It gave us the audio. They're getting read at graduation. I'm getting the ick at my own graduation." Another post said, "It's preposterous. Parents are chiming in saying they're horrified that this is such an impersonal treatment of their students that tried so hard and they paid so much money." I hate to be the contrarian on this, but I've sat through some of these graduation ceremonies. I think it's kind of awesome. Here's the first reason why. It was quick and efficient is how it did it. It sounded great. And you know what else? How many times have you been to a graduation and the dean just massacres a kid's name? There was none of that with AI. It was all perfect and it worked great. And it was quick and nobody was waiting there. What's the better option? Waiting until they, or a mix-up in line and they can't pronounce your name? I don't see what the problem is. And let me tell you something. You can protest all you want. I think this is coming to college campuses and graduation ceremonies all over the country. I'd be totally fine with it. Just get us in and out of there quickly. Now, there is one drawback. Because, you know, it's AI generated and they're scanning off a phone, right? And it's all approved by the college. How soon before some college kid, this is the only thing that may stop it, before some smart-ass college kid hacks the system and you scan the name and the AI voice says, "Harry Balls." Harry Balls. Phil McCracken. Harry Balls. Pulling like a Bart Simpson on it. So that may be the only thing to stop it, but AI graduation ceremonies are here and they're probably here to stay. I don't know, whatever. Thanks for finding me. I appreciate it so much. I'm out of material. I gotta get out of here. And I know you do too. So we're motoring towards the weekend. Tomorrow's Friday. We'll have all kinds of Memorial Day stuff to talk about for sure. Looks like gas prices are down across the country. Nobody's talking about that, I noticed. But the takeaways from today, like always, this is a constant. Like proof positive with the ambush word from today. Anytime you hear the same word or the same exact phrases come from media outlets or politicians, that's when you know it's generated propaganda for sure. That's the main takeaway. But we all know that. And it's a good thing that we all recognize that now. And the other thing, whenever you see a movement starting like Free Palestine and it starts violent and you think it's going to stop there, it never does. And now you got that international incident on your hands. It was very sad, but that's the other takeaway. And get ready for AI commencement addresses. Unbelievable. All right, thanks for finding me. I appreciate it. Don't forget about the audio podcast. As soon as we wrap up here, it posts about a half hour after the fact, wherever you happen to be, and your favorite audio podcasts. And the Wicked Radio live stream, all part of Wicked Wisdom with Bill Adams, all the social media platforms. You know the deal. Facebook, YouTube, right here on X and the replays and all that good stuff. Like, follow, and share. I think I'm obligated to say that. I appreciate your time as always. But tomorrow's Friday and I can't wait for it. But have a wicked awesome Thursday. Don't take any crap from anybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow.